In studio with the Admiral Bill Stubblefield. Good to see you, sir.
Good morning, Rob. Great to be here.
New York Times best-selling author John Gilstrap.
Good morning.
He's out of town the rest of the, he's not on the show the rest of the week, I should say. I'm not sure. You're going to Houston, did you say?
I'm going to Houston and then on to Colorado Springs.
Colorado Springs, where the Air Force Academy is located. Tomorrow night and Wednesday night. Oh, no, tonight. This is the 13th, yeah. So tonight and then Tuesday night, there are Board of Education forums that are be taking place. Tonight's one is brought to you by the Boys and Girls Clubs.
At Musselman High School, starting at 6 o'clock.
Bill, you will be one of the folks moderating that.
I will be. I'm looking forward to it. It's primarily Stacy Rome that's put it together. Ashley Horse is involved, but it should be a very good evening. Yeah,
and then Tuesday night is one that's put on by Education West Virginia. My understanding is that Dale Lee will be the person who moderates that and asks the questions, and that will be at James Rumsey. We will televise the one on Tuesday night here on TV 10, and that's the reason why we will not be doing a BOE candidate forum of our own on Wednesday of next week. Tuesday of next week, we will do a candidate forum for the contested races and contested races only. That'll start at 8 a.m. and probably wrap up somewhere around 11 o'clock over at the Berkeley County Commission Chamber Meeting Room. There are 6 contested races of the local nature that we are going to do that aren't BOE related. One of those races is Senator Jason Barrett and Chantel Mack. Senator Barrett cannot make it at the forum on Tuesday, so on the 28th of April at 9 o'clock, John and Bill have both graciously agreed to reroute their schedules, and we'll do a candidate forum in studio with Chantel Mack and Jason Barrett on the 28th of April. That's a Tuesday, I believe, at 9 o'clock. That'll go until 10 o'clock.
Rob, could I go back to the one tonight
please.
At Musselman? It's going to be from 6 to 8 at Musselman High School Auditorium. It's going to be sponsored by the Boys and Girls Club and the Stubblefield Institute, open to the public, all welcome. There's going to be 5 focus areas they'll address: curriculum and student success, community growth, safety, security, and social emotional support, recruitment, retention, and compensation, school aid formula, and special education. And Stacy has gone out and solicited comments from a diverse group of folks, and their questions will be packaged, and that's what will be presented to the candidates.
Very good. There's a lot to discuss with these folks, and just to let you know, Gary Lescalit, it was theorized that he had dropped out of the race because he's not participating in the one tonight or tomorrow. Gary had agreed to come on our show today at 9:35. At this point, we can't reach Gary. Not sure what's going on there, but this would have been his, as far as I can tell, his main public appearance for the Berkeley County Board of Education candidate forum. He was scheduled in this slot, and we have communicated up into this time just about, but he's so far not available. But in regards to the other 8 candidates, you've got Pat Murphy, who is not running for re-election, so that seat is open. And then you have 2 incumbents, Damon Wright and Jackie Long. Jackie is the president of the Board of Education. Those are both contested races. So when you look at a Board of Education candidate forum and you look at issues and such, John, you no longer have school-age children, and neither do I. I think back on the time, what would be important to me as a voter for those running for a Board of Education seat? And what I typically do in the community where I live is I'll contact our head football coach as a teacher, and I'll say, who are the folks that the teachers are supporting for the Board of Education? And I'll start with them, and I'll read up on what their philosophies are, because for most people, you can look on their social media pages and find out the kind of things that they believe in and what they want to make sure happens in the school systems. So, John, when you think back on your school-age son, what was important to you in Fairfax County in regards to education? What was being taught or not taught? What behaviors were being tolerated or not being tolerated that you wanted to see in a Board of Education candidate?
I wanted an environment where learning is the number one goal, not my son was born in 1986. So that was kind of the transition time. We started worrying about what kids could and couldn't read and what my first book was a banned book because of, by the school system where he was. I think for me, elected officials' jobs are to stay out of the way and let whatever system they're representing work to the benefit of the customer who's there, which would be the kids. It's not, if you look at the ability, one of the life skills, the ability to at least understand what balancing a checkbook is important. I think that we should require shop class. I hated shop class, but I benefited from shop class, right? Mm-hmm. I think that the emphasis on these advanced placement programs for kids now, I think it's a 5.0. It's like 11 on the amplifier. So
this is Spinal Tap.
There's a teach to the test problem that I think it's federal law, so I don't think it's fair to hold county school board.
No child left behind.
Responsible for that. But what was important to me was an opportunity for children to be children, which means you get to run around, you get to make mistakes, you get to, you grow.
Problem solve. And I sense that we're getting less and less of that. There's a lot more tolerance of acting out, which is what kids are paid to do, right? Anything that would bring peace and learning to the classroom as the primary focus. Bill, you'll be one of the panelists asking questions tonight. What are the types of answers you're looking for tonight?
Their involvement, their engagement, their vision. We tend to look at the school board as John so aptly described, as implementing the policies of the legislator in conjunction with that of the superintendent. I would argue there is a second function as well that is not publicized as much, and probably not utilized as much, but I think would be equally, if not more important, and that would be as an advocate for the particular needs of the district, of the area. Advocate to the legislators. Now, certainly the legislators are part of the community and they hear diverse viewpoints, but it's the school board that's involved on a continual basis. They're the ones that should be able to filter out and to assemble what we need from the legislators in some to be the advocate.
But one of the frustrations we hear, we've interviewed all the school board members, certainly from Berkeley County, or most of them, from time to time. The shared frustration is that they're not able to do anything. There's the state board of education has their mandates, federal government has their mandates, but when it comes down to the individual classrooms, the board is specifically enjoined from getting involved with that. I'm not really sure what I'm not being provocative here. I'm really not sure what the role of the school board is here.
John, that I've heard that as well, but let me go back to the point I made a second ago. None of that describes or limits being the advocacy, and that is something I do not see or do not hear very much from the school board, of looking at the problems in that area, conveying those issues to the district themselves.
I just waved Mike Hornby in here, who's done a lot of work on school aid formula,
like a hurricane.
he came bursting in like the wind.
And there was that pregnant pause because I felt this gush of wind behind me. I did not know what was happening.
Mike, what are some good
morning, gentlemen.
Good morning to you.
I've been screaming at my radio all the way in.
Oh, now you get a chance to scream at us while you're here. Yeah. So what are some issues that you think are huge for the Board of Education race this year?
So I think when you look at the members that are running, you need to ask some key questions. The first question you need to ask is, what grade would you give the superintendent? Because really, under our law that we have now, the Board of Education manages the superintendent. Mm-hmm. And the superintendent manages everything else. So I would ask that question to start with.
What grade would you give the superintendent?
And then the second question is, if you were elected, would you vote to fire the superintendent?
The sitting board members that I've interviewed have unanimously approved of the job that Ryan Sachs is doing as the superintendent to this point.
And for me as a legislator, I would echo that because the amount of communication and the forward-thinking plan that I think Dr. Sachs has put forth is pretty impressive.
But isn't that your second question? Isn't that an obvious answer? Would you vote to fire a school board superintendent? The answer has to be yes. Under certain circumstances, I would fire a school board. You need something more definitive
I think you
than
need
that.
to be specific.
Yeah.
In this question is, would you fire Dr. Sachs? The contract is up in a number of years, whatever. How would you decide on that? And I think another question you need to be asking is, do you support the school bond? Because the school bond is coming up for election, and there are a myriad of people who are on either side of that issue.
Yeah, I think that's a more real question at this point in time because that's right in front of us today. And a secondary part of that, Mike, was how would you promote the school bond?
Yeah, and would you be in support of changing the school bond for the future, whether the legislature wants to allow locality pay within a school bond? Would you support that? Because that would have to be on the ballot too.
So what is the board's role in the bond? I mean, they just because it's a popular vote, so they just one more vote.
So the superintendent would lay out ideas for the bond. The school board, the current school board, put those ideas into what is going on in the current bond. And it's their job now to promote it because they're obviously the current school board.
And
Well, how would
they also
they-
have to approve. They have to approve putting it in front of the public.
Yeah.
Well, who would run for the board and say no? I don't support the school bond. I mean, that seems a little suicidal to
You're
me.
going to be very surprised in the answers that you get from the current slate of nominees.
Oh, I think there'll be more than at least a few that'll say they're not in favor of the school bond.
As it's structured or at all?
At all.
At all. I mean, don't forget in Morgan County, 10, 12 years ago, they voted down their school bond
Because some of the teachers saying not enough's come into them.
or the levy, whichever it was.
Well, and the bond cannot
Well,
be
that's
used.
structural.
The bond cannot be used under law currently. Cannot be used for teacher enhancement. Right. So it has to be for capital improvements. That's part of our Constitution. That's the way it works. But that's not to say we can't change that in the future, because there are ways that we can give the school board elected officials locally some more teeth. So they're not just controlling a superintendent. In a lot of these smaller counties, you see a lot of turnover in superintendents because they've been told that the elected officials, the board officials, have been told they can only control a superintendent. So when things go sideways or something happens, the first thing they do is get rid of the superintendent, like in Hancock County.
I thought that the school bond was for capital improvements. It's
Yes.
for buildings.
Yes.
So
Buildings, fields.
why would you vote down a school bond that's only for buildings because it doesn't
'Cause
have
it costs
teacher pay?
taxpayer
Costs
dollars.
taxpayer dollars.
It comes from our property taxes.
And I have no
Okay.
children in school, therefore I'm going to vote against it.
And there are a movement of teachers that are very unhappy with the way it is structured right now.
Okay.
And they're unhappy that locality pay didn't pass. And that's nothing to do with the superintendent.
But they're going to take it out on somebody or
They will.
something.
I will say this, Dr. Sachs called around multiple legislatures to try and convince them.
You mentioned the school bond, you mentioned school levy, Mike. The difference between the two?
The excess levy, they do have the ability to enhance housing stipend, things like that. Dr. Sachs has recommended that they move that housing allowance directly into the pay. So that's something that had a lot of fire in the last month. So.
I have, this is from a Facebook post that was made by a teacher to reflect what you're talking about.
I think
Mike.
there's been, and I respect the teacher 100%, but there are multiple very tenured teachers that are openly against the school bond and say it can come back in November, it needs to be changed, it needs to be done.
This post says, join the Berkeley County Schools, and this teacher is going to be on the program tomorrow. I'll keep the teacher's name out of it until tomorrow. Join the Berkeley County Schools team, empowering excellence in education. A senior staff member was allegedly heard saying they don't care who leaves, everyone is replaceable. They didn't know we felt this way. They do not respond to emails from staff voicing valid concerns, and so many are afraid to even speak up. Why? They're just following the rules from the top. They say yes and do not advocate for students or staff. Everything is hunky-dory. They have hundreds of substitutes filling teacher positions. They seemingly think every teacher is incompetent and incapable. They roll out a brand new curriculum mid-year, giving no teacher a real say. The same curriculum many teachers feel is unedited, overpriced, not developmentally appropriate, and yields no actual proven results. They're losing more and more teachers to neighboring states who pay more and more and arguably care more. They treat the good teachers still here with perceived disdain, and I hear they do not even respond to their emails of valid concern. The test scores are low. The teachers, and then they say the teachers aren't doing a good job. There are kids who are below grade level and can't read. They cut the interventionist and increase class sizes. They want their interventionist? Okay, swap them for 2 of your aides. There are students who cannot read or write, so they cut middle school reading and ELA classes and put students on screens for hours. The entire staff needs trained. They use AI to create a PDF slideshow that defines words like guide and ask us to solve 24 plus 27 for them with math manipulatives. These trainings are important. There is an instructional problem. They pull teachers and aides during instructional time with students for the trainings. They value our feedback on PD. How dare she say publicly it was pointless to her? They get in trouble at their schools. Well, here's a spiffy position at the board office. Or would you be interested in being principal, leading the staff at one of our elementary schools? They have far too few certified teachers, so they pay certified teachers more to leave the classroom and go to the board office. They change the school from K2 to K5, then they cut the assistant administrator. One admin can do a bigger job. They build a new school and rearrange the old ones. They can't tear it down as soon as planned, just in case we aren't ready to open quite in time. They don't listen to qualified teaching professionals about the negative impacts from so much screen time. They require hours of said screen time on iReady and other ed tech programs and give out grades solely based on iReady performance. Then they push more ed tech. Then they cut computer teachers at schools with 19 or less classrooms. This goes on and on about
Rob,
this kind of
who's
stuff.
They? Who's
Yeah.
they?
They is
Well, yeah,
lead- they is
who's
leadership.
Who's they?
Is
Do you
what
have-
They is the administration.
the
They-
administration.
as opposed to the school board, or as opposed
Well,
to
the school board's the
legislature?
one who approves the administration, approves administration's plans for the future. So,
But
what
they, in this case, they talk about the
is
school.
leadership of
Leadership.
Berkeley County Schools. I think a lot of the pushback is the plan for the new CTE, where hey, we don't have enough teachers. Why are we investing in this?
Yes.
I do think, and this all comes back down to what happened in Hancock County. Hancock County, much smaller budget than we have. They were 150 teachers over their school aid formula funding. Every county went back and looked at where they were according to the funding. And a lot of counties realized, we can see 2-3 years down the line, we're going to run out of money if we keep going with what we have.
I think Berkeley's 400 over, if I remember.
Well, I think Berkeley's in a very significant position. They do have a pool of money that they've kept behind, which they've been very prudent with their money. What they have done is take advantage of some of the laws that we've created or passed in the legislature to allow for some flexibility and some movement so that, especially in the smaller districts, where you can move teachers around, you can change bus routes, you can do these kind of things. And that's ruffled a couple of feathers. But this all comes back down to the legislature has no power over the Board of Education, the Department of Education. All we can do is pass laws. We have no responsibility or anything else after that. We have not passed any rules through LOCS since the bill that I passed 2 years ago has gone up to the Supreme Court. So we still have nothing to show for that. And that makes it really hard for the legislature, the Board of Education at the local level, and the district itself to actually have a working relationship.
But as we go to an election, going to the meat of what Rob just read from that teacher, is the board, the board member that I vote for, can they affect any of that? Because we hear over and over again that they're not involved in curriculum, they're not involved in the classroom, they're not involved with the teachers.
Unfortunately, they cannot change a lot of that stuff. They can interact directly with the superintendent and help the superintendent decide or not decide. But
So there's a revolt. If there's a revolt and we hold the board accountable and we fire who's there and we bring in new ones because we want to affect this kind of change. That's my driving force,
Right.
is to affect this kind of change. I'm wasting a vote, right? Because they can't do that.
But the kind of change that we are implementing in Berkeley County is what's ruffling the feathers. People don't like change. They don't like new ideas. They don't like to be told, hey, this is something new that we want to get into trades. We want to get into that direct teaching so that kids don't have to go to a 4-year college. They can get a real job coming out of high school. $75,000, $100,000 job.
Picking
That's
up-
the goal. That's the
Yeah.
new focus in education.
But picking up on what John Gilstrap, I think, has put his fingers on, if someone is angry, who do they express their anger toward? The local school district, the local school board, the state board of education, or the legislature?
Well, I think the first bit of dissatisfaction would go if you don't like the direction of your schools. You vote against the Board of Education members because they're the ones who hire the superintendent who sets the directions of the schools. I think that's your most direct answer right there. If you like the job the superintendent is doing and you like the direction of your school district, you vote for the incumbents or those who are running who say they'd support the superintendent.
I think most importantly, you vote for the people that understand how the system works.
That goes back to the legislators.
And no,
Or the-
I'm
oh,
saying
excuse-
when we're talking electing Board of Education members at the Berkeley County level, it is really important. I think these are probably more important than the legislatures because, in my opinion, they do have an effect, and they have to know what they're talking about and have to know what they can do. They can't come in and just change the whole system as a new board member. That's just not possible under the current law.
Good stuff, Michael. We